Did gladiators really die in every fight, like Hollywood shows us? You've seen the movies Blood, Sand, and a thumbs down sealing someone's fate. But what if I told you most gladiators walked away alive? Let's talk about Marcus, a fighter in the arena, staring down his opponent, with the crowd roaring. Was his life really on the line, or was something else at play? Stick around as we bust the biggest myth about gladiator deaths, with hard evidence from bones and ancient records. You won't believe what really decided their fate. What if everything you've ever believed about gladiators is flat out wrong? Picture this. Marcus, our tough guy, stands in the middle of a massive arena. Sweat rolls down his face. His sword hovers over a beaten opponent, and the crowd is losing their minds, shouting and waving. You'd think this is it, right? A guaranteed death sentence just waiting to play out. But was it really? Let's talk about that scene Hollywood can't get enough of. You know, the dramatic thumbs up or thumbs down moment. You've watched it in 100 movies, thinking it decided whether Marcus lives or dies. But what did that gesture actually mean for him? Was it even a real thing, or just a fancy story we've eaten up? Here's the kicker to chew on. What if that signal wasn't the crowd's decision at all? What if Marcus's life rested in the hands of someone far away from those screaming fans? Let me set the stage for you. Marcus is a young guy, around 25 years old, built strong from endless training. His muscles ache from hours of drills with heavy gear, and now he's in the fight of his life. In a split second, everything could change. One wrong move and it's over. Or maybe not. Hollywood makes it look like every fight ends in a puddle of blood, but what if Marcus had a better shot at walking away than you'd guess? Recent studies show those arena battles weren't the savage free-for-alls we've been sold. Archaeological evidence from places like York in Britain tells a different tale. Scientists dug up bones of gladiators that show healed injuries, cuts and breaks that mended over time, not just deadly stabs. These guys didn't die every fight. They recovered and came back for more. Think about Marcus standing there, peering down at his opponent. He knows a bad swing could hurt him, but he also knows he's got value. He's worth way more alive than dead. You won't see that in any blockbuster, will you? Historical records paint the same picture. We've got tombstones from back then carved with details of gladiators' careers. These aren't just one-and-done stories. Many list dozens of fights. 20, 30, even more battles survived. Marcus wasn't stepping into a death trap each time. He was building a record, fight by fight. It's almost like looking at a boxer's stats today, tracking wins and losses over years. Not a single knockout ending at all. So, here's the big question to nag at you. If the rowdy crowd didn't hold Marcus's fate in their hands, then who did? And why on earth would they spare him when a gruesome end seems so much more exciting for everyone watching? Hollywood loves that final, fatal strike, but reality played by different rules. What was really going on behind the scenes of that dusty arena? Here's the first shock to hit you. Marcus wasn't just some throwaway fighter. He was a valuable asset, not a pawn to toss aside. Most of these battles ended with mercy, not murder. Letting him die wasn't just sad, it was stupidly expensive. Losing a trained gladiator, like him, meant wasting a ton of resources, and nobody wanted that on their ledger. Now let's shift from Marcus's heart-pounding moment in the ring to the cold, hard cash keeping him alive. You wouldn't believe who truly had the power to say whether he'd see another day or not. Think gladiators were just tossed into the arena to get slaughtered? What if I told you Marcus, our arena star, was worth more to the people behind the scenes than a shiny, top-of-the-line chariot? You wouldn't trash something that pricey for no reason, right? Well, neither did they. Let's talk about the cold, hard money running the show in ancient Rome. Marcus wasn't some random guy picked off the street with a sword shoved in his hand. He was a serious investment for trainers known as Lanisti, who poured a fortune into getting him ready for the big fights. These Lanisti weren't playing around. They spent years shaping Marcus into a skilled fighter, paying for his food, his shelter, and tough training sessions to build his strength and technique. Add in the cost of sharp weapons, sturdy armor, and even medical care to patch him up after rough bouts, and you've got a walking stack of cash. Here's the twist that flips the script. Letting Marcus die in a fight wasn't just a sad moment. It was like burning a pile of money. Why would anyone throw away all that investment just for a fleeting cheer from the crowd? It's not like they had spare change lying around to train a replacement overnight. Picture a lanista standing off to the side of the arena, watching Marcus swing his blade. Every clash of steel is a gamble. If Marcus falls for good, that's not just a lost fighter. It's years of expenses down the drain. Think of it like smashing a brand new car the day you drive it off the lot. Total waste. That lanista is sweating over every move, not because he's worried about feelings, but because his wallet is on the line. Historical evidence backs this up big time. Ancient documents, like one called the Senatus Consultum Depretis, lay out strict rules and price limits on gladiator events. The goal? keep costs in check for sponsors, so they didn't go broke putting on these massive spectacles. Every fight had a budget, and death messed with the math. Now imagine Marcus as today's pro athlete, say a star quarterback. His lanista is like a team owner who plans for the long game, not a single match where everyone gets wrecked. Owners don't cut their best players after one bad day. They build them up for season after season. It's the same deal here. Ancient records also show gladiators like Marcus could win their freedom or snag huge rewards after racking up enough fights. Some even got cash bonuses or land if they made it through a set number of matches. Killing them off in round 1 made 0 sense for anyone counting coins. Why end a potential gold mine before it pays off? So if money was king, why do movies always show blood splattered everywhere, as if every fight ended in a graveyard? Here's the question to gnaw at you. How often was Marcus actually staring down a real chance of not walking out of that sandy pit? Hollywood loves the gore, but was that the norm, or just a jazzed-up tale? Here's the eye-opener that might shock you. Fatal endings were rare, because Marcus's life was part of a business deal. Most fights wrapped up with one guy surrendering, not sprawled out lifeless, all to protect the bottom line for trainers and sponsors alike. Speaking of protection, let's switch tracks to who was really keeping an eye on Marcus during these brutal showdowns. It's not the person you're picturing, and the setup is far more organized than any movie would have you think. Ever wonder if gladiator fights were just total chaos? What if I told you Marcus, our arena warrior, had actual refs and rules keeping things in check, almost like a modern sport? You're probably picturing a wild brawl with swords flying everywhere, but the reality isn't what movies show. Let's talk about the structure of those ancient arenas. Marcus wasn't out there swinging his blade with no boundaries. There were referees, known as summa rudis, watching every move to make sure the fight stayed fair and followed the guidelines. These guys weren't just bystanders, they were the law in the sand. Here's the surprise that might catch you off guard. Fights could be stopped for mercy, a decision called missio, before anyone got killed. So why do we always imagine Marcus fighting until someone's down for good? Movies love that do-or-die drama, with one guy left standing in a pool of blood. But in real life, it wasn't always the end. Think about Marcus, worn out after clashing steel for what feels like forever, his chest heaving as he struggles to catch his breath. Suddenly, a ref steps in, raises a hand, and gives him a break. These summa rudis enforce strict rules, kind of like a boxing match today, where you've got timeouts and penalties for cheap shots. They could call off the fight if one guy was clearly beat, but still breathing. Historical accounts back this up. There were legal rules, known as lexes, that laid out how these battles had to go down. It wasn't a free-for-all where anything goes. On top of that, a bigwig called the editor, the sponsor who funded the event, often had the final word on whether to stop things early. Think of this editor as the ancient version of a sports commissioner. They're sitting up high in the stands, watching Marcus trade blows. They've got skin in the game, having paid a fortune to put on this show, and they're not about to let a talent like Marcus get thrown away over one off day in the ring. If he's still got fight left in him for future matches, why risk losing him now? Evidence from old writings shows this wasn't rare. Plenty of fights ended with both warriors walking off the sand, thanks to these interventions. Forget the idea of a dramatic thumbs-down signal spelling doom every time. That's Hollywood fluff. Many times, the editor or ref made a call to spare a fighter, especially if he showed skill or guts. Even in defeat, Marcus could lose a match and still get a nod to live, ready to train harder and come back swinging. It's not the tragic ending we expect, but it's how things often worked. So here's a question to chew on. If refs and bosses could step in and save Marcus, what did that mean for his long-term career? Was he always one bad move away from a fatal end, or was that just exaggerated for the crowd's thrill? You might think every fight was a gamble with death, but was it really? Here's the real deal. Marcus's fights were run like a pro league, not a slaughterhouse. Showing mercy was pretty common, keeping him in the game for more matches and bigger rewards down the line. They wanted him back, not buried. Now that we've got the rules figured out, let's jump to a shocking find in Britain that hints Marcus might have faced something way crazier than just another swordsman. You won't believe what they dug up that changes the game. Think gladiators only fought other humans in the arena? What if I told you Marcus, our battle-hardened fighter, faced something way scarier, like a lion, in a spot you'd never guess, Roman Britain? You're probably imagining grand fights in the heart of Rome, not some far-off rainy outpost. But let's talk about a wild find that turns that idea on its head. In York, at a place called Driffield Terra Cemetery, archaeologists uncovered bones of a gladiator with marks that don't look like they came from a sword or spear. These are bite marks, deep and jagged, hinting at something with a much bigger jaw. Here's the shocker that might make you sit up. Those marks line up with a lion's bite, not a dog or any weapon a human could swing. Think about that for a second. How does a beast straight out of Africa end up facing Marcus in the cold, damp north of England? It's not like they had express shipping back then to drop off exotic animals on a whim. This isn't the sunny Colosseum. It's a frontier town where you'd expect sheep, not roaring predators. Yet somehow, a massive cat left its mark on a fighter's remains, telling us the arena game reached way farther than most of us ever pictured. Picture Marcus standing in that muddy ring, not in Rome's grand stadium, but in a rough, wooden arena on the edge of the empire. He hears a deep growl, looks up, and sees yellow eyes and bared fangs charging toward him. A lion. The crowd around him must have gone completely nuts, seeing something so out of place in their gray, chilly backyard. It's like showing up to a local game today and seeing a tiger on the field instead of a rival team. They'd never seen anything like it. And for Marcus, this wasn't just a test of strength, it was surviving pure terror. Recent studies back this up with hard proof. A 2025 paper in PLOS One examined a skeleton labeled 6DT19 from that York site. Sure, it had damage to the pelvic area and a cut across the neck, likely from a blade, but the bite patterns on the bones scream large cat, most likely a lion. That's not guesswork. It's science matching tooth spacing and depth to what we know about big felids. This wasn't just a fluke either. The Romans had supply lines stretching across their empire, hauling exotic animals thousands of miles for shows. Places like York turned into hotspots for wild arena events, not just the usual man-against-man scraps we think of. On top of that, isotopic data pulled from the cemetery bones shows fighters like Marcus weren't even local. Their remains point to origins as far off as the Middle East or Scandinavia. York was like a gritty melting pot, warriors and beasts from every corner of the Roman world thrown together for the crowd's entertainment. You've got a guy like Marcus, hailing from who knows where, squaring off against a lion shipped from Africa, all in a town more known for wool than wild spectacles. So here's a question to roll around in your head. If Marcus made it through a fight with a lion, what does that say about his grit and worth? Was he just lucky to dodge those claws, or was this part of a larger setup to show him off as untouchable? You wouldn't believe how this discovery flips the script. It proves gladiators fought real lions, even in far-flung Roman Britain, showing how wide the arena's grip stretched and how much Marcus mattered, as a star they couldn't risk losing on a bad day. We've seen Marcus cheat death against beasts, so let's turn to how his story and tons like it smash every movie trope you've ever bought into. So, the biggest lie about gladiator deaths? Marcus and his kind weren't doomed to bite the dust every fight. Most walked off the sand alive, thanks to money, rules, and smart planning. That's the real arena story, not Hollywood's bloodbath. What do you think? Could you handle Marcus's world? Knowing one rough day didn't mean the end? Drop a comment with your take, and check out our other history videos for more jaw-dropping facts. Let's end on this. Gladiators like Marcus were pros in a harsh game, not throwaway props. Their lives meant more than movies show.